welcome to Tales of Honor Podcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of every recipient of the Medal of Honor. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Honor Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to telling the true stories of every Medal of Honor recipient. I'm your host, Christoph Ambrosch, and today's episode is episode number 280 and takes place during the Korean War. And now, a tale of honor. James was born and raised in Pocatello, Idaho on the 1st of January 1926. In school, he played basketball, and just before his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps on the 10th of November 1943. This happened to also be the 168th birthday of the Marine Corps. During World War II, James was deployed to the Pacific and fought in both the Peleliu and Okinawa campaigns. He was discharged after the war, and he went home to work as a machinist in the Naval Ordnance Plant. James also decided to attend the Western Washington College in Bellingham, Washington, before he re-enlisted in the Marine Corps. He became an instructor in post-exchange accounting at the Marine Corps Institute at the Marine Barracks in Washington, D.C., and did so for about a year. In August of 1950, only 5 days after the birth of his daughter, James deployed to Korea and he fought in the Battle of Incheon, but it was his actions during the Battle for Chosin Reservoir that would earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty while serving as a squad leader in a provisional rifle platoon composed of artillery men and attached to Company J, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division reinforced, in action against enemy aggressor forces at Udamni, Korea, on 2 December 1950. Vastly outnumbered by a well-entrenched and clearly concealed enemy force wearing the uniforms of friendly troops and attacking his platoon's open and unconcealed positions, Sergeant Johnson unhesitatingly took charge of his platoon in the absence of the leader and, exhibiting great personal valor in the face of a heavy barrage of hostile fire, coolly proceeded to move about among his men, shouting words of encouragement and inspiration and skillfully directing their fire. Ordered to displace his platoon during the firefight, he immediately placed himself in an extremely hazardous position from which he could provide covering fire for his men. Fully aware that his voluntary action meant either certain death or capture to himself, he courageously continued to provide effective cover for his men and was last observed in a wounded condition single-handedly engaging enemy troops in close hand grenade and hand-to-hand fighting. By his valiant and inspiring leadership, Sergeant Johnson was directly responsible for the successful completion of the platoon's displacement and the saving of many lives. His dauntless fighting spirit and unfaltering devotion to duty in the face of terrific odds reflect the highest credit upon himself and the United States Naval Service." When James was last seen, he was wounded and still fighting the enemy with hand-to-hand combat, and he was never recovered. His wife received his Medal of Honor from the Secretary of the Navy on the 29th of March, 1954, in a ceremony at the Pentagon. James Edmund Johnson was 24 years old when he died on the 2nd of December, 1950, and he has cenotaphs in Arlington National Cemetery, Honolulu Memorial in Hawaii, and at the National Korean War Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. And that was a tale of honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor Podcast. Head on over to talesofhonorpodcast.com where you can read these stories, see other ways to support the show, and easily share a story with your friends and family. Tales of Honor Podcast is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme song, A New Beginning, is by Ben Sound. If you have any questions or comments, you can send them to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Christoph Ambrosch. Thanks for listening.